My name is Travis Chapman. I'm a battalion chief with Windsor Severance Fire Rescue, based out of the Windsor Station. I have been a battalion chief in Windsor for, it'll be 5 years in May, and I was a firefighter for 15 years before that in Longmont. So we do shift change at 7 in the morning, and we do 48-hour shifts. So we're here for 48 hours, and then we're off for 4 days. So we come in, we usually get here about 6:30, 6:40. We do a handoff or a pass-down report with the off-going shift to find out what's going on, and if there's things happening in town or things happening with the engines or the stations or anything that we need to be aware of. And then usually by 7 we're out starting our rig checks. So we go through all the equipment, we make sure all the saws run, we make sure everything works as it's supposed to, that all the equipment is there, that the med bags are stocked, and oxygen tanks are full, and all the things that we need to do. That usually takes about 45 minutes to an hour. So then usually by 8 o'clock the crews are doing some basic level training, like they'll practice pulling a line or throwing a ladder, or we have a prop that we practice forcing open doors. Those are kind of the 3 big things that we do every day, just to make sure that we're really good at that. So that probably takes about another hour. So then at about 9 o'clock, we're kind of at a spot where we plan the rest of our day, and that can range from, we do business inspections throughout the town to familiarize ourselves with the buildings, and also make sure that the fire code is being adhered to, and that the buildings are safe for the general public. Sometimes we do home safety visits for folks, and an elderly community will go in and look for things like, talk to them about the hazards of throw rugs and how they can trip and fall and how that can lead to injuries. And so there's always public education stuff happening in that realm of that. And then usually about 3:30 or 4 is usually when most of the crews go down and do physical fitness. We try and do at least an hour and a half of physical fitness every day, because that's a really important part of our job as well. And then come 5 o'clock, it's dinner time, and we start, cooking dinner, and we generally cook together and eat together, and we're a family here, just like most people are at home. We always talk about this being our second family. It very much is. And then after dinner and clean up, it's 7 o'clock, and some of us will do other administrative duties, or maybe we'll go do some night drills. Sometimes we do that, to train in the dark. Or we just relax and kind of enjoy some time together. But that's a typical day. Calls start with someone calling 911. It goes to the Weld County Dispatch Center or the Larimer County Dispatch Center, and they will get some real quick initial information to kind of find out what's going on and where it's at, and a contact number for who's calling in case they get disconnected. Those are kind of the first things that happen. And then they send out an electronic tone or a radio wave to our station that sets off an alert sound here that tells us that we have a call, and usually they get us the call type and the address, at least to get us moving towards the truck. Our goal is that we're on the apparatus and moving in about 60 seconds. That's what we shoot for. And then a lot of times we'll get follow-up information. We'll get more details about if it's a medical problem, more details about the problem and what's happening. And they'll usually send at least a fire engine and an ambulance, for example, on a medical call. And then to get that additional information, there's a computer in the fire apparatus that's attached to the Weld County dispatch system, and we'll get more details that way as well. So the officer can get in, and it's tied to a mapping system as well, so we can see where we're going, and then any additional details that we need. And then depending on the call type, for example, I reference an EMS call, that's usually an engine or a fire truck and an ambulance. If we have a traffic accident, we try to send 2 engines, a battalion chief, and an EMS unit, or a med unit. So there's 3, 4, 5 units going depending on the call type. And the more serious the potential, or the more likelihood that we're going to need more people, then we'll send even additional units. So like a structure fire, a residential structure fire is going to get 3 engines and a battalion chief and an ambulance, and then usually a neighboring agency will come with us as well. The goal is, like on a structure fire, that you can put 15 people on scene in the first 7.5 minutes. That's pretty challenging for a lot of communities, especially rural communities. But that's why we work with our neighbors so well to get them coming right away as well. But it just depends on the call type, but there is a wide variety of what we send to different call types.
I'm Jamie Etherton. I'm a firefighter here at Windsor Severance Fire Rescue. So we had training today, but other than that, just whatever calls we were called to respond to, but it's also a family, so we gotta clean the bathrooms and make dinner and eat at the table together and interact in like a family house setting, but also be able to maintain and check all the engines and do whatever needs to be done around here. Windsor is a smaller community, so it's growing a lot, but it's still that tight-knit community where firefighters will see people they know from growing up or neighbors, and people will stop and say hi. And so I think that's a really cool part about this department is that we do have such community engagement, and we have a couple events like our open house where we'll bring in old engines and have kids there's a bunch of things for them to do. We're like pancake breakfast, so we're super open to them in terms of like, here, come see what we do, come see the station. But even just little interactions at the grocery store, when we do the fill the boot for muscular dystrophy, we're out in the community. And so there's, besides just running calls and going to read to students at schools, we do a lot for the community, which is really important, I think, especially in a smaller community like this. We'll be in boots and nice duty pants, and then typically in either a t-shirt or this button-up shirt, and a warm jacket when it's cold. I'm always cold in here, so I typically am wearing a jacket most of the time. And then out on calls, if we're going to a fire or a car accident or anything like carbon monoxide alarms going off, we'll be in our full bunker gear with air packs and everything. This is the first thing in my life that it was like, this is what you're meant to do. I felt like I danced around the idea of doing other things so many times, and like it just never worked out or didn't feel right until this. And it's like, it wasn't an easy road to get here, and I had to jump a bunch of hurdles and push through a bunch of things to get here. But the reward of being here is just, it's awesome. And it's a family. We're all super close, and you spend 48 hours with people 3 days a week. I mean, frequently we all become super close, so you just come to get to hang out with your friends and your family and do cool stuff.
My name is Corey Tope. I'm a lieutenant at Windsor Severance Fire Rescue. So the training for the job, it starts with an academy, usually at the beginning of your career, which is anywhere from 10 to 16 weeks of intensive, everyday sort of training that prepares you for most of the basic skills that we have to perform. But that's just the start, and every day is involved in training. There's either skills that we have to do or articles or books to keep up on. The fields, it's ever changing, so there's always a lot to make sure that you're on top of. So training for us is every single day, probably 2 hours every day at a minimum. So I think obviously the most rewarding part is being able to help other people. That's what almost every firefighter would tell you if you ask them. But the atmosphere that you get to help those people in is unique to this field, where it's their worst day and they're calling you for help that no one else can provide them. So there's many times that even just your presence there is enough to help lighten their mood or to provide some assurance that things will be better for them. And that's a pretty unique thing to be able to be a part of. It is self-fulfilling for sure that you get to experience those things, but more than that, it's what you're able to give other people every day when you're responding to their time of need. It's a pretty unique feeling, something that you don't get to experience in a lot of other positions. And that's what I probably enjoy most about being able to take care of other people. But you can't understate the importance of us being involved in the community. They are our customers. We're here to serve them. They're our bosses. So if we can provide that safety-minded approach to everything we do, especially on the front end before we ever have to deal with anything in an emergency situation, is pretty important. I think a lot of people see the lights and sirens and the fire trucks running down the road, but this is my house when I'm here. I live with my family when I'm here, that I am with a third of my life. So you experience the same struggles you would with your family outside of work, the ups and the downs for sure. But we take care of this place just like it's our home. So we do clean bathrooms and cook our own food and shop for our own meals and things like that. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of this place and keeping it up and running, and really taking pride in making sure that everything we have is clean and ready to go in case we do have an emergency. But I think people get focused on the lights and sirens, and that's just not something they think about too often, that someone's got to clean our toilets, and that's us.